Okay, hopefully you read the article, It's Not You, It's the Dishes, about a marriage situation. This was a book I read about the economics of marriage. And Eric and Nancy had a problem in that they tried to split everything 50-50. So if one washed the dishes one night, the other person washed the dishes the other. If one cooked dinner one night, the other cooked dinner the other. And that became quite a bit of a problem for them because they found that one of them was really good at cooking dinner and the other really enjoyed, for example, walking the dog. So I ask you to think about that and discuss that. And hopefully, for many of you, the solution that you came to was the solution that economists would give. They should specialize. So the activity we're going to look at now involves specialization. We're going to talk about absolute and comparative advantage. Absolute is when you're the most productive person. You use the least resources to make something, and that makes you the most efficient. So you're best at it. If you think about Michael Jordan during his heyday, he could do most anything on a basketball court. He was fantastic. Michael Vick was great as a quarterback and a running back. So he had an absolute advantage in a couple of areas. A comparative advantage is when you have the lowest opportunity cost. Where do you give up the least? So if you think about my middle school softball games, they had to put me somewhere, and while I was not good at anything, they put me way over in left field where I gave up the least. So low on the batting roster and way over in left field meant that while I was playing, I was causing the least amount of harm. So what you do with these is you take your PPC numbers and you put them into a chart. Typically with these charts, it's not said that these are numbers in a PPC, so you just have to understand it. So what that means is that a PPC for me, writing tests, would mean that I could make 5 tests in, say, one workday, or I could grade 50 tests. So you can see here that I can either write tests or grade tests, and I put this on a PPC just to show you that if I write 5 tests, I'm grading 0, and if I grade 50 tests, I'm writing 0. So I can do 5 or 50 or some number in between. Notice I drew the PPC as a straight line here because we're assuming a 1-to-1 trade-off between writing and grading tests. Also, you'll see it as a straight line on a lot of test papers because that's a little easier to write, so it just makes the math a lot less complicated. If we did curved lines, we'd be using calculus if it's not carefully labeled, so straight lines are a lot easier for our examples. So now I'm going to show you what Mr. Simmons can do. He can either write 7 tests or he can grade 28. So you can see with his PPC overlaid on mine that he should write the tests and I should grade the test if we're going to split up the work. So with our chart here, you see that Mr. Simmons has the absolute advantage in writing tests and Miss Lane has the absolute advantage in grading tests. These charts are used to figure out who should specialize in what. So when Mr. Simmons and I sit down to work on writing the next test and grading the last one, I should volunteer to grade the test while he takes time writing the test or writing the test questions. So the person that's better at each task has the absolute advantage. In this case, Miss Lane has the absolute advantage in grading tests, and Mr. Simmons has the absolute advantage in writing tests. Just a reminder, I can't write 5 tests and grade 50. I can write 5 tests or grade 50 tests. Mr. Simmons can write 7 tests or grade 28 tests. So if he grades 28 tests, he won't have a chance to write any at all.